Welcome! In this lesson from EasyPathUni, we are going to cover understanding compliance performance metrics. We're diving into a really critical question for any organization. Are you just following the rules, or are you actually building a culture of integrity? There's a huge difference. We're going to explore how you can measure that difference, how you can move beyond simple box checking. Okay? Let's get into it.
So let's start with that big question right there. It's so easy to get lost in a sea of paperwork and just assume you're compliant, but how can you be sure? Really sure? Well, the answer is in the data. That is exactly what performance metrics are designed to give you. I want you to think of them as your organization's health checkup for compliance, a way to see what's really going on under the hood.
So here's our game plan. We've got 4 key areas to cover. We'll start with the why this is so critical. Then we'll get into defining the key indicators you're going to need. After that, we'll look at some real-world examples, and we'll wrap up with a practical blueprint to put it all into action yourself. Okay, first up, Section 1. Why even bother monitoring compliance? This is all about understanding the stakes involved and why being proactive isn't just a good idea, it's pretty much the only way to stay ahead. What's so interesting here is that these benefits are all connected. They create this powerful, positive cycle. See, you're not just avoiding trouble. You're actively building a stronger, more resilient organization. Just imagine spotting a potential data leak before it becomes a headline, or smoothly adapting to new regulations while your competitors are scrambling. This is about protecting your reputation, which is your most valuable asset, and running a smarter business by dodging those absolutely eye-watering fines. So that leads us right into Section 2. We know why it's important, but how do we do it? We're talking about defining your key indicators, or KPIs. I want you to think of these as the precision tools you'll use to measure how effective your whole compliance program actually is. So what is a KPI, really? Well, to put it simply, it's a number. It's a quantifiable measure that tells you straight up how well you're doing at hitting a specific compliance goal. It's not just some random piece of data. It's a metric that is directly tied to an objective that you've decided is critical. It turns a vague goal like be more compliant into a crystal clear target. But here's the thing, and this is super important. Not all metrics are created equal. For a KPI to be effective, it's got to be relevant to your goals, you have to be able to actually measure it, and it needs to be achievable. Of course, it also needs a deadline. It's got to be time-bound. But the most crucial one here is that last one. It absolutely must be actionable. A good KPI doesn't just give you a number. It tells you what to do next. It has to drive a decision. All right, that brings us to Section 3. Theory is great, but let's see what this actually looks like out in the wild. We're taking this from theory to practice and looking at some real-world examples of compliance metrics that organizations are using every single day. Let's just break down a few of these. Take incident response time. This isn't just about speed, right? It shows you how efficient your entire response system is. A slow response could let a tiny issue spiral into a massive crisis. Or look at training completion rate. A low number there could be a huge red flag that your compliance culture isn't what you think it is. And of course, regulatory fines. Well, that's the bottom line, isn't it? It's the direct financial hit when things go wrong. Each one of these tells a vital part of your compliance story. And that brings us to our final section, Section 4. This is the blueprint. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's great to know what to measure, but how do you actually build a system to put these metrics to work in your organization? Here's a 6-step process that just works. First, you've got to identify your core objectives. Then, you select the right metrics to track them. Step 3 is so important. Establish a baseline so you know where you're starting from. Then, you integrate all this into your everyday processes. It can't just be some side project. Use technology to automate where you can. And finally, and this is key, you constantly review and adjust, because compliance isn't a one-and-done thing. It is a continuous cycle of improvement. Now, the really good news is, you don't have to invent this from scratch. A fantastic way to structure your whole implementation is to align it with an established international standard. The gold standard here is ISO 37301. Just think of it as a globally recognized framework, a proven roadmap designed by experts for building an effective compliance management system. And this really shows you why that's so useful. When you align with a standard like this, you get a clear, structured approach, so you're not just guessing what to do. It also massively boosts your credibility on the global stage, showing everyone that you are serious about compliance. And just like our 6-step process, it has that idea of continuous improvement baked right into its DNA. So, I'll leave you with a question to really think about.
If you had to pick just one metric from everything we've talked about today, what single number would tell you the most about your organization's compliance health right now? Answering that question? Well, that's your first step toward building a more robust, resilient, and truly ethical organization.